Hello?
Welcome everyone to Was It Good? My name is Bob, and today we're going to be talking about the new horror sequel, Smile 2.
That's not creepy.
The film is a sequel to the first one, which came out back in 2022. It sees Parker Finn returning to direct and stars Naomi Scott. Now, before I get into this review, I do want to let you know that I'm not going to get into any real specifics, so if you haven't seen the movie yet, you don't need to worry about any spoilers. Now, if you have seen it, I'd like to know what you thought. Why don't you go ahead and share your comments in the comment section below? Let me know. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Did you like the first one? Are you a fan of this film series? I'd really like to know what you thought. Don't forget to hit that like button, share the video, subscribe to the channel, and let's get to it. Following soon after the events of the first film, Smile 2 is the story of global pop sensation Sky Riley. As she's about to embark on a new world tour, she begins to experience increasingly terrifying and inexplicable events. Overwhelmed by the escalating horrors and pressures of fame, she must face her dark past to regain control of her life before it spirals out of control. Now, the first film was a hit with both critics and at the box office, so a sequel was inevitable. But a lot of times with horror sequels, you end up getting a film that tries to dive into the lore a lot more, and it ends up forgetting what made the original film so special. So the question is, with a film like this, where are they going to take the story? They actually didn't take it very far. They just took the original concept and just dialed it up a whole nother notch. Now, horror sequels, they tend to try to go bigger, badder, have more gore, but in this particular case, they dial up the intensity level, and they do that in a couple different ways. First is that the main character is a pop star. And by her being a pop star, that means you can do different types of locations. You can have her encountering different types of people that are smiling at her. For example, this is not really a spoiler because it's in the trailer, but there's an instance in which she encounters a fan, this little girl who comes up to her and is just smiling at her all creepy. And she reaches out with a pen and she signs the t-shirt and she's just kind of looking at her, and you see the kid just smiling back at her. So it's kind of cool to see these interactions that she could have with fans and people around her that she's working with that are just smiling at her. So I thought that was kind of a cool way to dial it up a whole nother notch. I also really like the backstory that they gave this character. Because of the psychological aspect of this film, they were able to take this character into some interesting directions, and I really thought that also added to the intensity level. I also want to add that I think the horror effects and the music were both pretty good, and then when it comes to the jump scares, got to admit, some of them got me. I was laughing at myself afterwards because they got me. So there are plenty of those. If you like jump scares, there are plenty of them in this film, probably about as much as there were in the first one. But the highlight of this film is easily the performance of Naomi Scott. She hit a home run with this one, and she was fantastic. First off, she did her own singing and dancing, and because of that, she pulled off the pop star portion of the film. But she also pulled off the psychological and horror aspects of the film. Her eyes told a big portion of the story. I loved what she did with the backstory and in the present. And there were several things that she did with this character, and she brought a whole nother intensity level to it. She was really good in this and was easily the best part of the film. Great performance by Naomi Scott. Now, there were a couple of problems that I had with the film. First being that although they did dial up the intensity level, this was pretty much just a rehash of the first one. It was like they took the first film and just put it into something bigger. Now, you could tell they were having fun with it. And again, I talked about all the positives, but I felt like I had already seen the movie. And if you've seen the first one, you've pretty much seen this one. Now, another problem I have is because the film doesn't explore any new territory, we're left with a lot of the same questions from the first one. Now, if you've seen the first one, you know that this is an entity attacking people, it's feeding off of them, and it's driving them down a very dark path. In fact, one of the characters in the trailer describes it as a parasite, but we get real no explanation through two films now as to what exactly it is and why it does what it does. I think the movie would have benefited from having that, and it would have taken it into some new territory. Plus, it would have helped explain things better when you got to the end, because that just left me scratching my head. Oh, come on! There are a lot of implications with this ending, and I'm not sure they make a whole lot of sense. Maybe with some deeper explanation as to what the entity is and why it does what it does and how it works, maybe it would have made a little bit more sense to me, and what they were implying would have connected with me. But as it is, I'm not really sure that it works that way. Bottom line, was it good? I thought this was a decent movie for the most part, and I enjoyed it more because of Naomi Scott's performance. Like I said, she really brought her A game with this one and did a fantastic job. Now, I felt like I had already seen the movie before, and so because of that, it was hard for me to get into it. But again, she did a really good job and made me enjoy it a lot more. Now, if you've seen the first one and you really liked it, or you want something fun to go see on Halloween, then I say go ahead and check it out. If you don't really like horror movies or you didn't like the first one, then you could probably wait for streaming. Now, as always, if you're still watching this long, I'd like to thank you for joining me. Don't forget to hit that like button, share the video, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next time.